What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and before we begin, in today's video, we are going to talk about BVB Luffy, we're going to talk about the Dodgers Luffy, and we're going to take a look at just some other cards as we would our normal market watch. But before you do that, if you can just do me a huge favor, it helps out the channel a ton. You see this link right here, YouTube video description, TCGPlayer, or you go all the way down, you'll find it right here as well in the comment section. Just click on that. It'll take you to TCGPlayer, and then any TCG purchase you make, will go, a small percentage will go towards helping me and the channel. So if you could just do that really quick, help me out a ton, and let's go ahead and talk about it. So a big thing that everyone is incredibly excited about and has led to a ton of discussion on social media and just amongst like the One Piece community is the addition of this. So there was a One Piece night with the Dodgers, and feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe that there had been a One Piece night there as well before. Maybe I'm thinking of the Rams and then the Lakers. So a lot of stuff just happening in the California area, right? So perhaps I'm incorrect in that. But if I'm not, then there was a day here as well. If not, they are giving away a hat, but they confirmed inside there will be activation spaces that you can acquire this Luffy. Atrocious believes it'll be kind of like a stamp rally type deal, something like that with his familiarity with sports, and you'll have to do some tasks to get the card. TBD, once I know more, I will definitely be sure to cover that. But let's talk about the biggest thing here, and that is the number one question on everybody's mind. What is the value of this card? And that's an incredibly hard question to answer. It is an incredibly hard question to answer because we don't know how many, right? We don't know exactly how they're going to distribute this. So in this video, I'm going to operate on absolute maximum amount produced and the cost of everything. So first off is, it's weird that they used this, but we'll take a look here just at the MLB site and what tickets are going for. So we have One Piece hat, first 40,000 ticketed gets that. And so operating on at least 40,000 of these exist, it should be reasonably inexpensive. So now we just kind of go to selection. We're going to look for the cheapest seats, which were around 80 when I bought them. It looks like we're looking at about 100 with fees now. So slowly climbing in price and slowly drying up for barrier to entry here. So you can tell it's driving a ton of excitement just off of this price increase. They were $40 prior. These tickets to the Dodgers were $40 for the, like, you know, the nosebleeds. This is where I will be. And, you know, hopefully get to enjoy the game, but I will be prioritizing getting cards and potentially trying to receive any additional or potentially acquire any additional through purchase of other people's, because I know there's a lot of people who are looking for these, and I'll do what I can, and I would love to get one to give away as well on Twitter. So we will see. But so barrier to entry is bar none $100. So you're paying $100 to get in. So I think $100 is a great starting point. And then we'll take a look here. So this is actually the worst card that could be a promo, because this is Green Purple Luffy. Okay. And this is the only other alternate art other than this one. So the only alternate art option on the market is $313. $313 is the cheapest alternate art leader, which means by default, this card should be the cheaper alternate art leader, which means everybody's going to want to buy it because it's cheaper, which means it can go up to $300 potentially. Because, like, you look here, there aren't a lot of sales. You see 87. A lot of people don't want to buy this. A lot of people don't have the money to buy this. A lot of people, like, you know, it's very well gatekept. You can see here, there goes 3 days without a single sale. I see these in the Facebook groups, all of that. This card is not flying off the shelves. Do I think this is going to be less than $300? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. How long is the question? Do I think it'll be more than $100? Yes. More than $100, less than $300. However, depending on how distribution is, this card could be $50. Why? So let's talk about BVB Luffy. This card that gets a lot of you, okay? And you shouldn't be buying it at this price, by the way. Whoever spent $210, F in the chat. You should not buy this at this. So I'm going to introduce you to... All right, so this is BVB Luffy. And you see here $210, but you can buy it in Europe right now, 82 euros, which is, this is roughly $90. And you do have to pay a 5% fee if you use PayPal. You can bank transfer and pay no fee, and you'll pay 82 euros. No big deal. So that is an option. That is an option. But this card is drastically cheaper still in Europe, so you should not be paying $210. However, prior to this card being $210, it should have been, it was $140. And then in the Facebook groups, it sold forever at $100. And now it's kind of getting a little bit harder because they're selling in Europe for almost $100. But this card was incredibly overpriced. But this card to start was $50, and how you got it was at Dortmund Stadium. I don't want to murder the name and try to think of what it is, but at Dortmund Stadium, you could get this Luffy. You had to pay, I believe, $5. You set up a free trial, and people were just farming it. People were going, you know, they were in the area, they were going, they were buying, you know. Tons of people had a bunch of them, a lot less now because everybody's just been buying them up, and I think a lot of them have been buying them up, sending them here, me included. I bought a bunch in Europe and sent it because it was cheaper than this. And so I was like, okay, and I got me some, and I sent one to a buddy of mine. He doesn't know that yet, though. But I sent it. So, like, these are just cheaper. And these were $50 when it all started. They were 40 euros, 50 euros, something like that. So it should, in theory, be cheap. But Dodgers is an incredibly popular team. And in the same way that BVB Luffy has demand here, I think this card is also going to demand a lot in Japan, because Japan is a huge fan of the Dodgers. But it really depends. If there's over 40,000 of these, it should be reasonable. If they made over 40,000 of these, it should be reasonable. When you go to BVB Luffy, we hear $10,000 or 10,000 copies. We hear 10,000 copies. Who came up with that number? I don't really know. But I hear 10,000. You know, when I hear One Piece Day, I hear 10,000. But I know at the end of One Piece Day, they always have extra bags of stuff. And I know at One Piece Day, they gave out a ton of extra bags and still had extra bags. And there were thousands of attendees. Thousands. So there's the potential for there to be so many of these. And so it is an incredibly hot but dangerous card, right? It's hot because everybody who wants one has to pay under $300. For any alt. They're happy to pay under $300 for any alt. And then Dodgers fans, you know, you're hitting the baseball demo. I'm struggling with all my tabs here because I've gone through so many. But I think be incredibly careful. I think it's worth, you know, if you're in the area, 100% worth the go. I'm going to get there stupid early. I'm flying in there Thursday. And then I'll probably just find a little place to chill, then go straight to the stadium. I don't know how early you can line up, but look into Hollow Live. I looked into Hollow Live. People lined up incredibly early, and people waited the whole game for merch. So do with that what you will. Be careful. Have a good time. And remember, at the end of the day, it's just cardboard. But let's go ahead and jump into the regular market watch. But too long didn't watch. I think it'll be above 100, below 300. I think that's a safe range. And I think it can even be cheaper. I would like to try to get some cheaper, because the tickets are about 100 and they're kind of moving. So I would like it to be a little bit cheaper, but we'll see. And then we got Mr. 2. So let's go ahead and jump in here. So first thing I really want to talk about, right? We talked about BVB Luffy. We're going to talk about Mr. 2, Bankure. Bankure had took a huge jump after the TCG sale and just never really found his way back down. You know, we do see here a little bit in like the cheap TBD, you know, there is 0, 0, 0, and you see like 76, so about $75. I've seen him sit in Facebook groups, place that's $250 not selling. I think there's a lot of, there is the Bandai update, TCG update, June 12th. So TBD, 1 week from today, if we see any kind of bans. So be careful. A lot of people also think Blue Purple Luffy isn't as good. They think there's going to be a shakeup at the meta from the structure decks. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But really just want to talk about this. He went up, hasn't come back down. And then kind of just want to talk about Usohachi. Usohachi trying to like make his way back up. Again, this card could very well just make his way back down. Of course, Blue Purple Luffy or Black Purple Luffy is able to utilize him as well and kind of finding its way into the meta. A lot of hype around Black Purple Luffy. And if you're new to the channel, I try to do like these, like, we call them masterclasses, but it's essentially just a really high level and nitty gritty breakdown of decks and like help you further understand how to pilot these with, ideally I bring on some more experienced pilots, and I also of course put in the work myself. So if that interests you, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Over 80% of my viewers are not subscribed, and we're trying to stay above Minhootie. So remember, a sub for Vamp is an unsub for Minhootie. And then we got Shirahoshi. So I'm mentioning Shirahoshi because you can kind of see she went back down. There's a lot of talk about Enel, but overall, like, a lot of people are getting excited for it in OP12 as well. OP12 is still shaping itself out, but I did notice some Japanese stores trying to acquire this card, so did just want to kind of get that on your radar. Of course, it is $23, and it is Extra Booster 01. Would I buy this card now? No, I would wait for that Bandai State of Affairs. They could announce reprints, they could announce bans, they could do anything. And so, like, it is, of course, at your risk, right? They could ban something, make Enel the best deck once again. It is possible, but it's also possible, PRBO2, we're going to see reprints of EBO1. That could be announced there as well. We see EBO1 reprinted in the Bonnie structure deck, which is good, showing that they're willing to reprint EBO1 cards, and it's not off the menu. So it is completely possible. I would not be surprised. I am treading very carefully. Same thing with like Bond Clam. I'm sure other people are also. Because the secret rares were incredibly easy to access the first time around. I know they changed up how they did EBO2. They could very much, well, change up the way that they're going to do PRBO2. The same way they changed up EB. Less hits, less this, less that. Because you got 2 secrets per box. Guaranteed. They could make it not even 1 secret per box. We don't know. We don't know. But wanted that on your guys' radar. And then, of course, this one as well. Everybody was like, I wish this was in the Bonnie structure deck. Please be in the Bonnie structure deck. They don't reprint super rares in there. The only one that ever did that was Uta, and I think they literally had to for space to make an all-film Uta deck. I think they had to reprint it. It's the only instance we've seen an SR reprinted. Don't ever count on a structure deck to have these. Usually they have 2 SRs, and they're the new ones. But everybody's hoping for this in PRBO2. I am also, as an owner of Cabbage Patch, I am also optimistic for you guys because I think this card is atrociously expensive. But Zoro is heavily played. Zoro and Rayleigh are both seeing a rise in OP12. Again, it's not even technically legal, but just like the early days, people are experimenting with both of those. And, of course, Cabbage Patch being searchable offers a lot. So, if you have these and you don't want to play green and you don't want to play Zoro, could be a fantastic time to sell them. If it is reprinted, you're the biggest winner. If it isn't, we all just cry ourselves to sleep at night. Same thing here, Tony Chopper. He ebbs and flows all the time. Zoro's in, Zoro's out, and his price reflects that. But it also shows you how impactful the playability of a card can be on the price, which is really what I just kind of want to drive home here, is like the ebbs and flows. Here it is, unplayable, playable, boom, $20. It's just EB value. Boom, it's playable, $40. Boom, oh, it's right back to where it started. So it's a great opportunity to potentially own this card. Maybe target the alts, because alts, when reprints happen, tend to lose way less value than the SR alternatives. Because again, PRB. PRB. We don't know what's in it. We know Sabo's in it. And so just tread carefully. But again, if you had one or you were wanting to play Zoro, because some people do believe Zoro is still a good deck this format in OP11, and you want to play the animal, you want to go to the zoo, $19. Katakuri, so we're going to talk a little bit about OP11. SRs typically aren't super expensive, but they kind of go crazy the first day of release. I think this is one of the best purple cards ever printed. There's Bankure, and then there's this. I think these are like top two. This card is a phenomenal card. Luffy literally builds his deck around this card dang near. And it's just like, boom, Katakuri. Oh, I'll swing, I'll block. I'll swing, I'll block. Card's just nuts. I think I'm hoping to pay 7s on release day. I'm hoping to pay 7s. I think this card doesn't go below $5. If it is, I'm probably buying them. Again, this isn't on the cutoff block for PRB. So this card could be, be careful. PRB is around the corner. We don't know anything. But the first PRB, I want to say, I don't know if it cut off at 05 or 06 in terms of total cards. But I know for sure 05 cards. And so if you just take that into account, like this should be within the range of what could be inside of there. And if it just is, this card will just be $1. Any like SR, historically, is just ended up $1. And again, they could change the ratios. Same thing here with this Monkey D. Luffy. He is a secret rare, and he is a decent card. He kind of ebbs and flows in the meta as well. But I think $15 is a very fair price for this card. You see here there were a couple like at 15 at one point, but they were also incredibly high. This card could be 15, go down to 10. The Rush 9 Luffy is arguably a better card. So this card I would not be surprised to see it. It depends. This card is more popular with Bello Betty in the meta to really just relieve that pressure, go after a body, remove another. I just keep that off of you. So do with that what you will. But I think, if you're targeting this for after, I think $15 is incredibly fair. If you're looking to pick one up now, you can also, I talk about CardMarket, you can also go here. So this is a great place just to get a good idea. We're going to go there. This is a great place just to get a good idea. So we'll look for a Fist of Divine Speed of what a card will actually cost. So we see Katakuri, again, $5. We typically trend a little bit higher than Europe does, but 5 is incredibly reasonable here. And then we'll just look here. We'll go high to low. It'll show us the alts, but then we should see the Luffy. So we'll see these, the reprints. Okay, we're looking for Luffy. So you see here, even like Honesty Impact, incredibly cheap on the alt. Don't overplay. Lucky Roo's already 22 over here, and these, again, not even officially released. These are just incredibly fair prices. So we're looking for Luffy. V1 is here we go. So it's $15. Again, that's about what I would expect on release, and I think is incredibly fair. So use your, do what you will. But if you're gonna buy these, of course, use that link in the YouTube video description. It helps me out a ton, more than you will ever know. And then Trafalgar Law. So green-yellow Law is kind of like the talk of the town right now. Everybody's like, green-yellow Law is good again. Law was $12. I meant to pick some of these up before. I fell behind, and now I pay the price, right? Because he was kind of expensive. Then, of course, P-Kid did not really do much. It became cheap, and now it's kind of expensive again. Again, could be on the reprint block. He's OP10. It would make the most sense to reprint this. It would make the most sense. So he could be like $2. Again, use your own. Are you a GY Law player? Do you think you're going to play something that you absolutely need this in? If yes, of course, pick those up, get your values worth. But then, of course, if not, this is the kind of card I watch. P-Kid out here, $4. You might not have realized this card was $1.50. I know I pulled 2. I meant to buy more. Now I only need 2. Crazy how that works. But he is about $5. Crazy. Tashigi also kind of making out, this is a really good green card. I need to pick up mine sooner than later. So this would be on my agenda as well. Because I got lazy. OP10, I just didn't. It was too expensive. It was incredibly overpriced. Boxes were way too high. I'm like, it's an $80 box, guys. So Tashigi, just wanted this on your radar. Again, green is like the conversation. Green is just like, everybody says it's the most fair color. No green cards are banned, right? But it is a good card. Doesn't hurt to have. Again, could be reprinted. Pedro, I always thought this card was undervalued at $3. I might have mentioned it in a video. If you remember me mentioning it in the video, let me know. I thought about looking back just to be like, I told y'all, because I kept mine forever. I just I left it in my binder, finally sold it. Shout out the buyer. Sold it for $10. I was like, $10 is fair. $3 was just silly, though. I was like, I'd rather just keep it at $3. Some alts are just too cheap, and sometimes cards can have their opportunity. But, he KOs a 6 or he rests the Don. I felt like this card was always really decent. He's a 4-5 with counters. He has good stats. He has counter, and he actually has the decent ability. And he stops an attack. So shout out my goat, Pedro. And then finally, just wanted to talk about Smoker. I know I've been just yapping, so I'm trying to it's kind of like a half and half video. Call it coffee, but we've got Smoker, $150, possibly playable in Zoro. $150. I like it. I'm going to pick up these in probably Tashigi this weekend. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to in OP11. And again, if you found this content of value, you could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I will see you all in the next one.